On today's show, Canada will be playing for gold at the Olympics.
And we take a look at the Ottawa Senators trade targets and assets.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Today is Friday, February 20th, and Pillsy, it was definitely in doubt, but Canada pulls it off. The first team to ever come back twice in the medal round at the Olympics, and they will be playing for gold.
Oh, it's such a good feeling being that first game, Ross, and seeing that Canada has already advanced. Now we get to sit back, relax, see who's going to play us for the gold medal at the 2026 Olympics. They kept it interesting, that's for sure. And it's crazy to look back on the preliminary games and Canada pretty much just cruising through competition, and then you get to when the games matter, quarterfinals, semifinals, and it was looking pretty sketchy in both of those games, especially this one. I'm not gonna lie, Ross, midway through the third when it was 2-1 and Canada was pressing but couldn't get anything past Saros, I was getting pretty nervous.
Really, for me, it was in the second when it was still 2-0, and the shorty had just gone in. A breakaway you give up, and this is supposed to be a Goliath power play unit, and instead it's a missed puck battle by Reinhart, a missed catch on the way out from Nate McKinnon, and hey, Eric Howell off to the races. Made no mistake. I had a deep thought of this entire tournament coming crashing down. Was I even going to watch the bronze medal game? Would I be able to handle it? Those were the types of things I was thinking. And then I realized Team Canada's better than everybody at hockey. And when the pressure mounted, so did the Canadian players. What shifts, what coaching from John Cooper? How many line changes were there in that third period? Every offensive zone draw, McKinnon, McDavid, and Celebrini would hop out. Bennett, his line was unbelievable in that third period with Marchand and Wilson. They're on the ice for the game-tying goal. It was just a masterclass, and credit to Finland. That's a not give you much team with elite talent like Rantanen who opened the scoring. But when the chips are down, you're betting on McDavid to McKinnon, and it's in the back of the net, and Canada wins.
Yeah, I had a feeling McKinnon was going to have his moments. We were talking about yesterday, Ross, and Crosby weren't sure if he was going to play. And I said, who do you think is going to be captain? You said, obviously, McDavid. McKinnon, this is a guy that has those leadership qualities, has those big game moments. And I mean, it's kind of crazy because McKinnon's not even the captain of his own NHL team. Landeskog is and has been since he was a teenager. But McKinnon can step in and get it done. And 35 seconds left, he does just that. And I want to get to it, but also these big moments have been pivotal moments for guys that had been quiet, or Canadian fans have been like, I'm really not seeing enough from this guy. Like, why is this guy brought, or why isn't this guy showing up? Sam Reinhart, perfect example. I think a lot of Canadian fans are like, he's doing nothing. Like, come on, we need to see this guy that's shown up in big moments in Stanley Cup finals. That's been a key part of the Florida Panthers dynasty here. And then he gets that tip goal to open it up. Shea Theodore, you're thinking, this guy puts up big points for Vegas. We've hardly seen anything from him. And then he gets it. And initially, I don't know if they changed it, Ross, but it was Theodore, from Makar and another defenseman. I'm sitting there.
Sanheim. Sanheim kept his assist. They moved Makar's to Wilson.
Okay, that makes sense. I was wondering, are we going to have a Czechia moment where there's too many men on the ice for Canada here? But luckily, that's not the case. Now let's get to the McKinnon goal. A great play. And shout out Celebrini for being able to get out of the way of that one just in time.
Shout out Celebrini for being onside.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll start with that. But on the goal, he was right in the way, and then he gets out of the way in perfect timing. That's a tough one for Saros to stop. If I'm Team Finland, I'm challenging that 1,000 times out of 1,000, though. That was 100% the right call to challenge that. Not only is it so close, but there's 35 seconds left. It's Team Canada. If you can get that called back, you feel pretty good about yourself. And that was so close. And I don't know about you, Ross, but I didn't exactly love having the feed directly plugged into the refs' views, because they're like switching in and out of the replays, and it was kind of weird. It's kind of cool to see, but I'd rather the broadcast be able to control it and explain as it's going. But
PTSD from your Belleville days?
Yeah, exactly. Doing work on replay. But that was about as close as it gets.
I think the second goal was even closer. Like, I was shocked they didn't challenge for goalie interference. Marchand brought himself into the crease. I know he was pushed over him, but did he have time to reset? It was close.
I'm with Mike Johnson. You do not challenge that if you're Finland, because Marchand didn't go into the crease on his own. He gets pushed, and Saros had time to reset. That I wouldn't have challenged. But also, like, who knows what goalie interference is, and especially with the soft calls that the IIHF instills, that could have gone that way. But at that point, I don't think that would have been the right play.
Not a soft call, though. Goalie interference against Sam Bennett early in this game. It ends up being a power play goal right away. Like, this guy's got no shame.
Yeah, accidentally on purpose, just bowling over Saros. But honestly, when he's not on your team, it'll drive you absolutely insane. But I was kind of sitting there being like, that's a good penalty, because Saros is stopping everything. Like, once in a while, you got to do it. Do I endorse that kind of thing as a hashtag goalie friendly show? Absolutely not. But him and the Florida Panthers, they've made a living off of pulling slimy, greasy stuff like that and getting under team skins and getting their heads out of the game. So that's classic Sam Bennett.
And classic Team Canada, they just overwhelm you for too long. And obviously, when you fall down 2-0, you're going to get their most offensive burst that they have available to them. The shots were 8-8 in this game after the first period. They ended 39-17. Like, for all the credit that we can give the Finns, and rightfully so, they play such a structured game. They're such smart players, and they know what they have to do to be successful. Like, this wasn't that close.
Yeah, although I thought Finland was playing a much better game after the first, which, like, Kevin Bieksa during the intermission was saying, yeah, Canada's playing great right now. And I was like, wow, I don't know. Maybe we're watching different games. I was not impressed with Canada's first period whatsoever. But then the way the score happens and the talent and the passion that Team Canada has, not saying Finland doesn't have that same passion, but just the drive that they have to get this done. When you're down like that, you're going to see the best from McDavid, McKinnon. And how about Celebrini? How many shots did he finish with? Like, I know he was at 7 at one point.
He was at 7. He finished the game with 8.
Yeah, so like, he was putting everything he could towards the net.
And Connor McDavid with 2 more assists, his tournament, like, he's the best player on planet Earth. And I think he might even be taking it to another level in this tournament. Maybe we just don't get the privilege to watch him every single night like Oilers fans do. But every time he's on the ice, you have a chance to score. Like, you have to lean forward, because even if he gets the puck in the defensive zone, he can go through your entire team. How ridiculous would that goal have been if it was Marner that scored it, where he danced, came off the bench, everyone was tired, kind of skating in quicksand, and he just makes a sick move to his backhand, bit of a fluttering puck, a defender got his stick on it, and he still got enough off. Like, that was a toe save from UC Saros, close. But maybe stubbed it so that it couldn't get over to the post in time on McKinnon's game winner that found a hole that big. Yeah. Like, this was not an over-the-shoulder snipe. This was find a lane any way you can, and Canada ends up getting the victory and will play for gold, either Slovakia or the United States of America.
That sounds so good.
We love dominating in hockey, but the drama is what makes it so special. Like, the way they've come back in these games, it's just such a different feeling than 2014, where it was, we'll score, and then we're just going to shut it down. You're not getting any chances, and when you do, Carey Price is going to be there. This team is earning it the hard way. They're playing exciting because they have to. They're down in games. They have to take chances and risks, but that's where the skill comes in, and they're finding ways to finish enough to win these games.
Yeah. I could do with a little less stress, Ross. I know you're famous for posting your heart rate tracker throughout intense games. I'm sure that one was a good one today, but I could use a little bit more of a steamroll win. For the gold medal game, let's just take the lead, pile on a couple, and get a good 4-1 win or something. Okay. I would like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take it either which way as long as Canada ends up with that gold medal around their necks afterwards. I'll be happy. Hey, Pilsy, what'd you think of Nicholas Matin-Paolo's game today?
I mean, the only time I saw him is when he got absolutely leveled by Tom Wilson along the boards there. Other than that, I can't say I saw a lot of Matin-Paolo.
Let's play the Curtis McDermott game. How much ice time did Nicholas Matin-Paolo have today in the semifinals?
I feel like the only time I noticed him was in the first.
Do you want to do time on ice or number of shifts?
I'll do time on ice. I'm going to say 5:41.
Way over.
Oh, damn.
Oh,
okay.
You're way over.
Yeah, wow.
Played 1 minute and 24 seconds in this game. Had 4 shifts.
More than he gets in Ottawa. Jeez.
Hey, don't need to pay for a ticket on the bench. It's a good view of a great game.
It's true.
Who you got tonight? USA, Slovakia.
USA. But the Slovaks it's not going to be easy. I think this is going to be a tight one. I don't think it's going to go to overtime. I'm going to say 3-1 USA with an empty netter.
All right. And how about Brady Tkachuk goal? That warmed the heart?
The first one is going to be a Brady Tkachuk goal. Yep.
Opening the scoring. Okay. Well,
what's your prediction?
I'll say 2-0 USA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 2-0 USA will be my prediction. But if the Slovaks score first, if the Slovaks score first, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Whew. I'm ecstatic to watch this one as you just wait. You know you're going in to Sunday morning and you're guaranteed a spot. Don't be too physical out there, guys. Just kidding. Play for glory. These teams should consider today their gold medal game. That's the type of intensity that we probably will see with all these competitive players out there.
Yep.
So
leave it all on the ice today.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Next time you'll hear from us is going to be Monday. So next time we talk Olympics, somebody's going to have a gold medal around their neck. But for now, let's turn our attention to the trade deadline. And the NHL will have no more trades after March 6th, 3 p.m. That's 2 weeks today. So let's look at our final trade target list as well as discuss some assets that we think the Senators might dangle to get a player to improve their team. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. I'm talking flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your pick win, but it could also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen each and every day and helping the Locked On Podcast Network become the #1 sports podcast network. You already make us your team every day, so join the Everydayer Club. You'll get ad-free content directly where you listen to LOSP, as well as access to our members-only Discord. All right, Pillsy, the trade deadline is sneaking up quick. Well, we've got a trade freeze right now. That'll end on Monday at midnight, and then we've got almost 2 weeks until March 6th when the trade deadline happens. So we want to set the table. We did it with the cap yesterday. Shout out to Brian from Cap Wages. Great information there. We did it last week with Bruce Garriock. He seems set that it's Mackenzie Weegar or bust to an extent for the Ottawa Senators. And we also know that Mackenzie Weegar is a guy that's not really on these trade bait boards. It's more so no move clause. Ottawa wants him. Like they did with San Jose last year, you just keep calling and you never know.
Yeah, I mean, Mackenzie Weegar wasn't even on Sportsnet's most recent trade bait board at all. And they had 25 other guys on there, including players from Calgary. So maybe it is a case of just Steve Stais working the phones with Craig Conroy in Calgary and seeing if they can make a deal. Now, of course, Weegar does have that no move clause, but I think all you have to do is watch that video of him in Ottawa a couple of years ago. The guy loves being in the city, maybe almost as much as you, Ross. Yeah, maybe you and Mackenzie Weegar could do an Ottawa tourist guide in the city one day. That would be a good piece of content, actually.
Yeah, fun fact, I actually got cut from a team that Mackenzie Weegar was on, the Nepean Raiders, Junior A back in the day.
Damn. That's you can find that on Ross Levitan's elite prospect page.
No, you definitely can't. Not those preseason games. No way. And probably for the best, to be honest with you. But look, Mackenzie Weegar's a name we've talked about a lot. So we're going to leave that to the side for the most part in this episode. But before we even get to our final trade deadline targets before the trade deadline, which is again March 6th, what assets do the Sens have to move here?
Well, let's start with the obvious. Carter Yakimchuk. I think this is the one of two guys where you can look and be like, this isn't just Sens fans or Sens management with the rose-colored glasses. This is actually a legitimate asset that other teams are interested in, and other teams are probably starting trade conversations with Carter Yakimchuk's name. Now, how far do those trade conversations go? Probably that's it. They say, well, we'd like Yakimchuk. Steve Stais says no. And okay, moving on. Let's see what else we can do. Then you're moving on to another right shot defenseman prospect, the fourth Sens prospect on LOSP's top 10 Sens prospect list, Logan Hensler. Obviously injured right now, but still a lot of runway for this guy in his career. First round pick, smooth skating right shot defenseman. Those will always have value. So those are the top two guys. And probably similar conversation for Steve Stais, though, being like, look, we just drafted this guy. We like him. We're not really interested in moving him. So those are where they start. Those are the clear assets. But I really don't see a deal, Ross, even a Mackenzie Weegar deal where Steve Stais is comfortable moving either one of those guys.
No, it just feels like the biggest need on this team is a right shot defenseman, and you have two in the pipeline that you hope can become exactly that, Yakimchuk sooner than Hensler, but it just feels like a lateral move and one that could end up looking like Forsberg for Erat back in the day when Washington gave up on a guy who's became one of the premier goal scorers in the league. So I don't think that Steve Stais is going to do it. And on my available assets for the Ottawa Senators, I didn't even put either of their names there. The only defensemen that I put on there were Jorian Donovan. I think some people could see him as a half of a value asset. And if you're looking from Ottawa's perspective, what's the path for Jorian Donovan to get full-time NHL minutes in Ottawa? You got Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot locked up on the left side, and then you've got Tyler Kleven, who you've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into his development and seems like a perfect guy to patrol the third pair for the next 5 to 7 years. So is there a path for Jorian Donovan to get there? Probably not. So if a team's interested in him, that would be a conversation that I'm sure Steve Stais would be willing to have. My other defenseman on here, and I'm dangling it because NHL teams love size. If you could get a taker for Gabe Eliasson, that would be okay with me.
Agreed.
Great kid.
We love Gabe. We want to see him succeed in Ottawa. I've got a Gabe Eliasson Ottawa Senators jersey in my cart when he plays 100 career games for the Sens.
Okay.
So we'll see if that happens. But second round pick, look, he has a skill. It's violence. If you're out there and you're like, we need a violent player, give Steve a call.
And like Tyler Kleven plays that similar, I'll say, sense, not as full-fledged violence, but that could be a trade chip that another team would be like, whoa, like it's a unique asset for sure.
Certainly a unique asset. And then you probably look at the forwards, Ross. I think unless you have another defenseman that you would throw in there as an option. I mean,
those are the two that I think would have any sort of value, right? Like if someone wants Matthew Andonovski or guys like that, like, but sure. But like,
I was going to say maybe a Lassie Thompson, just because that's a depth guy that you could see being a top player in your AHL and maybe play a game or two in the NHL if you need, but unlikely. Teams had their opportunities to claim him off waivers. He spent a day making pizzas in Anaheim and then came back to Belleville pretty quickly. Now, as far as the forwards, this is tough. We got to say it, though. Stephen Halliday is arguably your best trade chip at forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could say that. Again, I don't have him on my list because it's not a call that I would initiate as a guy who I'm looking to move. But if the right deal came up, you'd have to at least listen to it because you've got your 3 centermen locked up down the middle. Plus, don't forget Ridley Gregg can play center as well. So it just doesn't feel like a position where you are dealing from a position of strength. Yeah. And that is typically a way that general managers like to operate. My trade chips for forwards are Tyler Boucher. And again, I'm not expecting the world for it, but he needs waivers next year. He's a guy that's shown that when he's healthy, he can contribute and can be a top player in the American League and does have potential. And you could see a team say, like, all this guy needs is a fresh start. Yeah. Like, there's that conversation that can be had around Tyler Boucher. And then I'm going with one of, not both, but one of Blake Montgomery or Javon Moore as a guy who a team might look at and say, look, there's extra runway. These guys are both Javon Moore, they're both freshmen in college. Blake Montgomery's a year older, but those are guys where it's like, if we're rebuilding for 3-4 years down, that would be when they're ready to come in and potentially make an impact. So I think that one of those two guys could be in the mix. And my other kind of wild card in all this is Arthur Kaliev. And I get that he's so valuable to the Belleville Senators, but they're on the outside looking in the AHL. It hasn't gone well. So it's not like you want to keep him just because he's contributing at the AHL level. If a team has an NHL spot and you can get a mid-round pick, that's a trade I would do.
Yeah, agreed. Now, how many teams are interested in that? I don't know, because again, any team probably could have had him in the offseason. Although the Sens did give him a pretty competitive offer as far as minor salary goes, so maybe that spooks some teams off. But definitely, if teams are looking for depth scoring, that would be a guy that could easily be had, and you're not going to hang on to him very long if you're the Senators. And then other people might be thinking, okay, what about a guy like Fabian Zetterlund? If you're looking to move some money, move a roster player, or bring another roster player in, his value has got to be so low right now. I mean, there's got to be
problem.
There's got to be other GMs looking at him like, we see the idea, we see why Steve Staios acquired him, we see why the contract extension was given based on the skills and the way he plays, the potential he has, but it's just not working. And if you're a GM, are you willing to gamble on picking up that tab with the production that Fabian Zetterlund has right now? Probably not. So like that would be a lateral, we got to move some money type deal, a hockey trade where I don't see other teams feeling like they get out on the better side of that. So it's probably not going to happen.
It's one where the value looked a lot better when his cap hit was $1.45 million last year versus $4.275 this year. Yeah, the names I was mentioning were all in the prospect pool. The guys I have at the National Hockey League level, Fabian Zetterlund, and if you can get a taker for Nick Jensen, I think you'd really want to do right by him, get him to either a legit contender or Minnesota, his home state, somewhere nearby there. That could be a move that could be mutually beneficial as he ends this contract in the final year, just over $4 million. So I also have one of the third-round picks at least, if not two of them. Ottawa's got 3 this year. That could be a little sweetener in a trade.
I think you have to move 1 or 2 of those, Ross. Like if you're doing any move, like immediately just put one of those in to add some value to your trade.
Okay. Is the 2027 first-round pick in the mix?
Oh, man. Oh, like only if you're getting a guy with term. I'll start with that. And I really don't feel good about that. I know there's people saying, Pillsy, we're in our competitive window right now. You got to forget about the picks. And I get that. That's totally fair. At some point, you do have to think that way. The Sens has just been burned by DeBrincat, Chychrun so many times, Matt Duchene, like making these big moves where first-round picks are included. And it's a gamble for sure. And you saw, we just did our top 10 prospect list. We talked about it. This is not a list you really want where majority of the guys are already in Belleville. A handful of the guys are going to graduate from being prospects. You only have 2 kids in college on that list and then 1 in the queue. You need to have some sort of future responsibility and keeping those draft picks, especially a market like Ottawa. the best way to be a stable franchise is to draft and develop guys. So like look at a lot of the top players in the organization right now. They're drafted and developed by the Sens. So I don't like the idea of moving a first round pick, but if it brought back a top 4 right shot defenseman with term, I would certainly consider it.
Would you rather kick it down the road even further and try to see if you can get a taker for a 2028 first round pick? Lottery protected, of course.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big procrastination, screw future Pillsy type of guy. Like, what do I care about what that guy thinks? So if I'm Steve Stais, yeah, definitely try to kick that draft pick as far down as you can.
That's exactly what we said when they got Chychrun, and now Ottawa doesn't have their own second round pick this year. Damn.
But Ross, at the time when I was landing in Cabo to meet you for your bachelor party, I wasn't worried about that at all.
No, I think we laughed and called it a lottery ball and said, who cares? We got Jacob Chychrun. We also have some assets available, and those are the main ones. Again, if the right piece came up, and we'll talk about one, if not 2 of those options coming up here soon, then it could be a different conversation. But I just think right now, you're probably looking at a mix of those players that could be available.
Yeah, this is what Steve Stais is working with, is the players that we mentioned, and depends how deep he wants to go in his bag with future draft picks.
So with those assets in mind, who could be available to target for the Ottawa Senators? We'll have those conversations next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. Welcome back, Locked On Senators, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. So we've got the chips in play. They're on the table. You're turning over the dealer's cards. What is on the other side? Well, before we get to names, let's get to the needs of this Ottawa Senators team. Number 1, we've already been through this. Top 4, right shot defenseman, a partner for either Thomas Chabot or Jake Sanderson. I know a lot of people are locking in, and I'm happy to as well, the Sanderson-Zub pair. But if you can find a guy who may not necessarily fit with Thomas Chabot, but you still think can play in your top 4, we have seen Chabot and Zub have success in the past. So it's an option.
Yeah, definitely. I would even say, Ross, more you're looking for a number 4 defenseman, right? Like, I think you're comfortable. You're ecstatic about Jake Sanderson being your number 1. We're cool there. You're comfortable with Thomas Chabot being a number 2 guy, anchoring that second pair. You're comfortable with Artem Zub being a number 3 guy, whether that's with Sanderson, which has been arguably one of the best D pairs in Ottawa Senators franchise history, or like you mentioned, put him with Chabot, and then you're like, whoever you play with Sanderson is going to be fine. So really, I would even narrow that down to a number 4 defenseman.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Forward depth, you can never have too much.
Agreed, definitely. But with the limited assets that the Sens have, you'd have to get kind of a bargain deal for me to really buy into getting another forward, as opposed to spending those assets to getting a top 4 or a number 4 right shot defenseman.
Well, I've been advocating that maybe you do a 2-for-1 shopping deal, where kind of like they did with Dylan Cousins. I know they gave up Jacob Bernard-Docker, but you get your depth defenseman in there as well, like they did with Dennis Gilbert. He was able to spot play a couple of games down the stretch. That would be the same kind of deal for a forward depth option here. And number 3, it might be higher, but I don't know if now's the time. But if you could find a top 6 winger to play with Tim Stützle, that would still be a missing piece on this roster.
Yeah, that is definitely number 3 for me, lower on my list. Because to do that, Ross, I think the conversation starts with a Ridley Gregg or Shane Pinto. I don't like you're not getting a top 6 guy without moving a good roster player, and those would be the 2 guys.
And you really have to be careful with this too, because if you look at all the numbers and how Ottawa's played for the majority of the season, you don't want to take out of this roster. You just need to get some saves and help a little bit more in the one area that's really been a glaring weakness for them, which is their second right shot defenseman.
Speaking of that, Ross, so we don't have goaltending on this list at all. So where are you at with the Ottawa Senators goaltending, and if they need to acquire or should put assets towards doing that?
I think that maybe the move would be if you can get a taker for Mad Sogard and get a more veteran and older goaltender. I don't think it'll come back and bite you like the Gustafson for Talbot deal did. But if you can get a guy on an expiring contract, I mean, we're past the point where if you have two goalies, you don't have one. We're at the point where as many goalies that would like to play for the Ottawa Senators, we'll try the Russian roulette until it works.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Put all the bullets in the chamber, and we'll see if one of them clicks. Now, that's not typically how you want Russian roulette to work, I'm aware, but that's how the Sens have to play this.
Yeah, they have to. So, yeah, it's not in the top priority, but if you can get a guy, sure. But I'm not giving up assets to get Jesper Wallstedt, if that's what you're asking.
No, definitely not. No, that wasn't what I was asking. I was more asking if you'd be interested in getting like an Alex Lyon type or a true backup to be more of a 1B to Linus Ullmark.
We've been burned too many times. Could you imagine they gave up a ton of assets to get Wallstedt and he comes in and gives up 5 in his first game?
Yeah, you pushed all your chips in to get Ullmark. I know people can feel how they want about that, but you've already done that move and you have to hope it gets better. And we've talked about it so much. He doesn't need to be the Vezina Linus Ullmark. He just needs to be close to average, and this team will be successful. And I believe Linus Ullmark can find a way to be close to average.
So let's go through our trade targets coming into the deadline. Connor Murphy is my number one target because unlike Mackenzie Weegar, the cost of acquisition will not be as high. Unlike Mackenzie Weegar, he's not signed long-term. You get more flexibility here. Connor Murphy's in the final year of his contract, making $4 million. So he's a guy you can add without giving up anything off your roster. He's coming from a team that we believe would still be looking for future assets. So they wouldn't even be really necessarily asking for guys off your roster as much as they would value picks or prospects. Connor Murphy seems to me like he would be a great partner to have for Thomas Chabot.
Yep, I'm with you. I like Connor Murphy as well. He's a much more physical, defenseman type player. Each year, he's getting over 100 blocks, getting over 100 hits. He plays decent minutes. He's averaging this season, 1630. So a little less than usual, actually. Normally, he's in the 20s or 19s. So I do think, I talked about it, that number 4 defenseman. Now, maybe you're looking and you're like, what are you guys talking about? Connor Murphy, he's not going to solve your problems. He doesn't need to be a number 1, 2, or even 3. He just needs to be a solid number 4 that can help stabilize Thomas Chabot, because we thought we had this answered with Nick Jensen. Nick Jensen and Thomas Chabot were very good last year, and Jensen elevated Thomas Chabot's play. That's just not the case anymore. And Nick Jensen wasn't brought in to be a top pair defenseman. He was brought in to stabilize Thomas Chabot. And I believe Connor Murphy could be the type of guy that stabilizes Thomas Chabot. And unlike Nick Jensen, I think Connor Murphy could be a guy that ends up being a key player in your penalty kill as well, where this team needs improvement as too.
Yeah, he's a great penalty killer. He blocks a ton of shots. He's physical, and he can be a reliable partner, which is what Ottawa needs most. Mackenzie Weegar, more of a boomer bust in terms of what his impact would be immediately. He's not having a great year this year, but he has shown pedigree over the last decade of being an extremely reliable right shot defenseman. Zach Whitecloud, another teammate of Calgary's defenseman there, Mackenzie Weegar. He just got acquired in the Rasmus Anderson trade. I love the term and the contract that Zachary Whitecloud has right now. Like 2.75 is so reasonable. And he's a guy where the opportunity just wasn't really there in Vegas. He was kind of pigeonholed as that third right shot defenseman. He's averaging 23 minutes in 8 games in Calgary, and he's playing really well through that. Almost 2 hits per game, almost 2 blocks per game. He's got 3 points on top of that. So maybe there's some undercover offensive upside. I like the age best on this out of everybody. He's still only 29 years old. Like, to me, he might be rivaling Connor Murphy as the guy who I'd like the most.
Agreed. I think the only thing with Zach Whitecloud is I think he's probably closer to a 5 than a 4, whereas Murphy, I fully believe, could be your number 4 guy, but he's 3 years younger. He's got a much better deal. Like Murphy, who knows? Like, he's an American guy. Maybe he comes and plays in Ottawa and is like, look, I just want to be back in the States. I'm going to be a UFA. And then you've lost him, essentially a rental. Whereas Whitecloud, you got him for 2 more years after this at a very reasonable 2.75. And then the thing too with Whitecloud is I could see interchangeable roles with him and Spence. Like, you could have him and Spence kind of, depending on how their Spence's development goes, playing with Shabbat. Spence could get power play time. Whitecloud could get more penalty kill time. You could have just a shutdown pair at times of Clevin and Whitecloud, similar to Clevin, Matin-Palo, but obviously Whitecloud is an upgrade on Matin-Palo. So that's a guy I'm really interested in, but Bruce Garriock, our guy Scoops, wrote an article a little while ago talking about how there are a lot of teams that are very interested in Whitecloud, and that's a savvy move by Calgary, getting him in this deal to flip for more assets. It's the gift that keeps on giving, the Rasmus Anderson deal. So this is one where I'm interested, and I think it could make sense, but I don't think you're going to be able to outbid teams, because contenders seeing him on a $2.75 million deal for 2 more years, I wouldn't be surprised, Ross, if we get some crazy trade offers. Like, kind of like, remember, was it Brandon Hagel who was signed to a really cheap deal, and Tampa threw, was it two first round picks, and everyone was like, that's insane to do for a guy like that. Obviously, we didn't know Hagel was going to turn into the player he did, but at the time, Tampa was like, we don't care about our picks. We need quality cap controlled players that are going to help us fit under the cap while we're in our contending window. Zach Whitecloud's definitely a guy that would help contending teams do that.
And now we've got a buy low candidate on the blue line, and that's New York Rangers defenseman Braden Schneider. He's 24 years old, part of that 2020 draft class. If Ottawa wants to collect them like Infinity Stones, they can. And Braden Schneider was actually the guy that Ottawa was scouting the most with the Brandon Wheat Kings when they noticed this little pest who they decided to draft, Ridley Gregg. So former teammate of Ridley Gregg's there. He came on the scene and was a very steady defenseman from a young age, making his NHL debut as a 20-year-old. But this year in particular has been brutal. Rangers fans are sick of him. They say the decision-making is poor. This is a guy that I think would be a less steady option, which I know a lot of Sens fans have as the number one priority for this role. But he's also a guy you got to make a call on. You got to say, hey, like, how badly do you want to move him? How many people are interested right now? He's I think, a little more mysterious than the other defensemen here we've talked about.
Yeah, and I mean, if you like that warm, cozy feeling of having him as an RFA, Sens fans don't necessarily always get that feeling. Alex DeBrincat, perfect example. That's a plus for sure. I really like Braden Schneider. He was a guy that we viewed highly in our prospect profiles. 24 years old now. I think he's, I would say, more of a two-way guy as opposed to Whitecloud or Murphy, where they're more defensive defensemen. And just last year, Ross, he had 21 points in 80 games, finished a +9. Like, he's, for the most part, he's hovering right around 20 points and has been a plus player in his career. So he's someone that you could get. You hope that he can play well with Thomas Chabot, and then you hope that he can continue developing as just a 24-year-old. He's got a lot of time left on his career. So that's more of a let's hope it helps now, but pays dividends in the future type move.
Yeah, and also it's worth noting that even though he's 24, if you include his playoffs, he's played almost 400 NHL games. So it's not like he's a raw rookie that you're trying to find a role for. It's a guy that you just think there's more to give than what he's been presented. And for anyone who's looking at how maybe his development has curtailed, just look at the New York Rangers and their history developing young players, and it'll tell you a bit of the story there. So I think that you could see a team put in maybe an offer you can't beat if you're Ottawa, because he is a guy that does have higher potential and more room to grow than some of these other players on our list. Now we've got forwards, and these ones are less important from the standpoint of our needs, but they're guys who are worth mentioning. Blake Coleman, 1 extra year, like literally exactly what happened when Blake Coleman got traded from the Devils to the Lightning. They said, hey, we can get this guy for 2 runs. And that's what they did. And they got a Stanley Cup out of it. Blake Coleman's a very versatile player. And look, I'm not advocating to trade Ridley Gregg, but if you do, This is the type of player that Ridley Gregg you're hoping becomes, where he can play all 3 forward positions. He can play up and down your lineup. He can score 20 goals. He can hit. He can fight. He is literally an evolved form of Ridley Gregg.
The question is he too evolved, Ross? At 34 years old, I believe he's injured right now, according to our guys at Cap Wages. He's on the IR right now. I don't love the Blake Coleman idea just because I think you missed that window to get him. Like Calgary hit their stride in when they acquired him and when they signed him. I think it might be a little too late, especially for a guy that plays the way he does. I'm a little worried about how it'll go moving forward. And then where do you put him in the lineup? That's a tough question for me. So I'm lower on Coleman. And then also there's the issue of he only has one more year after this at 4.9. Then he's going to be 35. How do you navigate how to use him? I think, honestly, I would probably prefer just signing David Perron to another year. I'm not saying Perron is as good, and obviously Perron is older, but if you're looking for that style of play, I think we've got Blake Coleman at home type vibes with David Perron.
Yeah, I can reason with that. So this next player I'm not advocating for, but we got to put him on the list because he could be a guy who can play in your top 6 if he's on his game. Jonathan Marchessault. So it just has not gone well for him in Nashville, but I mean, he's a heck of a player. This guy's only 3 years removed from being the Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
Yeah, I would say I'm more on the Jonathan Marchessault train, Ross. Now, the issue is he's got 3 more years after this at 5.5 as a 35-year-old. But I still think he's got some juice left. And if he can score you 25 goals for another season or two, it might be worth it. But I'm not using assets to get Marchessault when guys like Murphy, Weegar, Whitecloud, or Schneider could be had, and those are assets you could have used to get guys like that. So I'm lower on Marchessault, but I do believe there's going to be a team that can acquire him and it can be a fit for them. I just don't know if it's the Sens.
Lastly, Robert Thomas. I put an asterisk here because this is the big game hunting that would be going on, and his name's been out there in a few rumors here. Who knows how legitimate that is because he is a hell of a player. He's locked up long-term, just over $8 million. This is the type of player where I would trade someone that we did not put as a trade chip. This is the type of player that you move legitimate assets to get. Who they are, I don't know. Whether they're asking for a Batherson, a Ridley Gregg, a Dylan Cousins. But those are the type of names that I would consider to get Robert Thomas to the Ottawa Senators. This guy is a legit dual threat goal scorer, playmaker, plays all 3 zones very well. He's 26 years old, right? Something like that. He's right in the prime of 26. His career. He's a player where I would be willing to push some chips in to get.
Yeah, Robert Thomas, great player for sure. I believe he falls into the category of Brady Tkachuk's best friend type guys, which if you have 6 best friends, do you have one? I guess Brady's just got a lot of best friends. Nothing wrong with that. The only thing, Ross, is he that much of a goal scorer? His career high in goals is 26. He's on pace to finish with less than 20 this year. Now, obviously, that's less games. I believe, again, he's injured right now. He's only played 42 games, but like last year, he played 70 games, only had 21 goals, 82. That was when he had 26, 73 games a year before, 18, 72 games, 20. If you're pushing your chips in for a guy, I like the idea of Thomas, but I want a pure goal scorer playing with Timmy. It scares me getting him another dual threat guy like Batherson. Obviously, dual threat guys, they're great players, but we got those guys. We don't have an elite sniper. So for me, if you're putting serious assets in to get a guy and Robert Thomas is your guy, I don't think he's the right guy. Now, would I want Robert Thomas on my team with that deal? Absolutely. But I just think you need to find a more niche player to play with Timmy. And when Timmy passes that puck over to him, he's like, I'm shooting this, I'm ripping this, and I'm scoring 30-plus goals year in, year out. Robert Thomas isn't that guy for me.
And it would have to be a player decision as well. Robert Thomas does have a no trade clause, so that needs to be worth noting there as well. He's an Ontario guy, and Again, the best friend argument can be used here, but Robert Thomas is very intriguing as a name to watch for as we get close to the trade deadline. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show? And of course, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the trade bait board? What do you think about the trade targets? Let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Final thoughts for me is I wonder if we'll get any trades coming through at 12:01 past the trade deadline freeze. I wonder if managers have things lined up for that.
Hey, just a manager showing his owner, hey, I was working over the break.
Yeah, I
brought home my reading material.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. I doubt it, but that's just funny.
Yeah, well, for Ottawa, how much do you think it affects the trade deadline, these 4 games before it?
In my opinion, massively. I didn't say it yesterday, and I won't say it again today, but if things go great for the Sens, that could lead to one result and one way of thinking for Steve Staios. If things go the opposite of great, it could lead down another path.
Final question for me, Pillsy. We had 3 Calgary Flames on our trade target list. Ottawa plays in Calgary the night before the deadline.
Oh,
do you
think trade?
Do you think that a Calgary Flame will be on that flight with the Ottawa Senators leaving Calgary? And maybe the deal gets done before, but is there going to be a current Calgary Flame on the flight from Calgary?
I want a hallway trade. I want it so bad. We got it with Vancouver with Anders Nielsen.
Got it with Matt Duchene, sending him to Columbus.
Yep. Yeah. So I really want that. So I will say yes.
Hilarious. They traded Dzingel like 3 days before. He flew to Ottawa, and then they just sent Duchene down the hall.
Yep.
Amazing. All right. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.